Hiya, I'm Jasper, and welcome to your video review for Firefly. It's a TV show that only had 14 seasons because Fox is fucking stupid and doesn't know when they have one of the greatest shows of all time on their docket and just got canceled. Okay, so as always, I'm going to give you good, the bad, and the furry. To start off the furry, there isn't any. Moving along to the good and the bad. So, for the bad, I'm going to start off with that because there's so little of it. So the bad is that, I don't know if it's just because I watched it this time around streaming or what. I have the Blu-ray, streaming's easier. So I will say that I think that there's a few too many times where the camera was clearly supposed to be focused like here, and it's blurry here for the actors. And like, could you have gotten another take? Maybe could you have done a little bit better lighting so that it was clear? I don't know. There was just a few too many times where I think that the camera wasn't focused properly. And on smaller television sets from back when this came out, maybe that would have been acceptable. But I think that it was a bit too many times of that. And then also, I think that the CGI is okay. I appreciated back in the day when this came out and when they were making this that I liked that they went through the effort to show perspective a couple times of like, okay, here's the thing, and now we're zooming way back to show you like that's how far away it is and that's how big this thing is relative. So I thought they did a good job of that. Not as good as Battlestar Galactica, but Battlestar Galactica, made it to 4 seasons, had a bit bigger budget, but they did. I think that they were kind of working in the same idea, Bill, of like, hey, it's okay if sometimes when we're zooming in the CGI of the exteriors of the ship, whatever, to have that blur of like, okay, we're zooming in, and now because like, oh, the engine heat or whatever else is coming off it, so things aren't exactly crisp and clear. And so I appreciated that they did that, but I do think that especially once you watch the movie, you're especially if you watch the movie right after the show, you'll be like, ooh, yeah, that CGI from the outside is I don't want to say low polygon, but it's never quite crisp enough. So it's like they had, I don't know, like a filter on to make it a little hazy, or just most likely the reality is that it could only be so high definition based on the budget that they had. But with what they were able to do, I think it works really well. And one of my favorite things about this show is that the interior set, I think it was just 2. Like Serenity herself, I think was like the upper floor with the engine, the offshoots to the crew cabin, and the cockpit. I think all of that was one set, and then down the floor with the cargo bay, the medical thing, and the stairs to Inara and the other shuttles, like that was all another set. And so the fact that they had these sets they could just use and walk around in, I think it really added to it. And how unique the different parts of the ship were, so you always knew where you were at. And the kitchen's also on there. But yeah, the point is that they did a really good job. I assume there were some walls that'd be taken out for like camera and crew and whatnot, but I thought they did a really good job of making each part of Serenity unique, and they used the ship well enough without feeling like you're constrained to the ship, because there was plenty of episodes and parts of episodes that were exterior thing. So I should probably have said earlier, but this is a space western. If you don't like space westerns, move along. And you're like, what the fuck is a space western? Well, I'll tell you. It's set in space, so there's the CGI and there's the technology of like, huge spaceships and being able to get in and out of atmospheres relatively easy and cheaply. And there's some super high like holographic technology, but it's a western because that's in Richie Richville of this universe, and we are in Porsville and the Outlands. So kind of, I hate to make this reference, but you know how Star Wars, they had Coruscant and they had all these high-techy villas, and then I don't remember what they call it in Star Wars, but the outskirts or not the wildlands, but you know what I'm saying, the poor areas on the outskirts of the Empire that just didn't get as much attention. Poorer, sure there was bits of technology, but it was poorer and they didn't have as much enforcement, that sort of thing. That's what's going on here, where there's all these different colonies in this solar system where there's hundreds of moons and planets and whatnot, but some of this, like, you got the core, which is all rich, and then you got out here where they get their colony supplies and their terraforming supplies, and then you're just plopped there with, maybe some cattle. So it's got a very Western theme whenever they're out at any of these poor locations, and they got the quick draw and the it has the feel of a space Western. But this is coming from a Jasper who doesn't like Westerns. I love the show because it's not like a Western trope. It's not John Wayne where he's okay corral and all that jazz. There's not a we're gonna shoot six guns at dawn type of Western. And don't get me wrong, I know there's an audience for that. I'm just not part of it. So it's a space Western in a way that entertains a sci-fi action fan, comedy fan like me. And speaking of the comedy, the first episode is a double-length episode, and I feel like they didn't realize how funny Mal was supposed to be. So if you're watching the first episode, and you're like, wow, there's not as much comedy in this as I was hoping, and that Mal guy seems a bit stern. Chillax, watch the rest of the show. It's like after that episode 2 of the length episode, they were like, hey, whoa, Mal, you got some comedy chops on you, so let's angle your character a little differently. Not totally differently, because you're still captain and you still got to do captain things, but we're gonna angle your character to be a bit more fun. And that's what I like about this show, is that every character has depth. There's depth to the characters, and they all play them really well. Like Kaylee has so much depth to her, and just they could have played her as the timid little schoolgirl thing. And sure, she's Twitter-pated with the doctor, but she's not shy about who she is. She knows what she likes, and she's going after it. And I like that. And you have the best Baldwin brother on this show, and I like that in just these 14 episodes, you get to find out more about his character, and he is a likable character despite of or because of the things that he does in it. And Inara is just awesome. I think that she is still the most mysterious one, and I feel like had the show continued, we might have gotten to explore a bit more of that. I don't want to say, but there's more things that we could have found out that I feel like we didn't because the show got cut short. And then same thing with Shepherd Book. I think that he was an underexplored character. I did like what we got from him, but I think that they set up more mysteries than they solved with him in this show. And the Doctor, I think the Doctor and River were probably the most I don't want to say well-rounded, but the most that we delved into their story with it. And then of course Malcolm, Zoe, Wash, all these characters. I can remember their names even after all this time. Yeah, yes, I just rewatched it, but that's not the point. I could remember it before. So it's a very memorable show, and I think that they knocked it out of the park with pretty much every episode. And I liked that the bits of technology sprinkled in, but not in a overly distracting way, but in a space western way. And the interactions with the crew were just absolutely awesome. They did a really good job of establishing the timeline. Also, Badger, who's in the first episode, it's a young Crowley from Supernatural. Like, oh, look at him, he's so lucky. Oh, so it's fun seeing Crowley there. But sorry, moving on. There's a timeless aspect about this show that I think holds up really well for pretty much all of the episodes, and I think that they all work really, really well together. And yeah, it's a fun cast with fun characters. The music is super memorable. Like, watch the intro song, and tell me that that's not one of the ones that you don't skip. I know that I skip pretty much every intro. Like, even after a while, because to be honest, like 7 seasons, 25 episodes season, like eventually I'll start skipping the Star Trek theme songs. But in 14 episodes, I didn't skip that intro once. Partly because there wasn't that option on the streaming service that I was watching, but also because it's an excellent song. And the music in general in this is just absolutely awesome. I love the character interactions. I love the pacing of every episode. I love that it doesn't have the Star Wars Mandalorian like episode of the week feel to it. It has more of that like supernatural thing where they have the overarching thing that's going on with a bit of that in each episode, but yeah, I like how the episodes were paced and what was going on in pretty much all of them, and to just see more and more of this world, and the space western aspect of it gives them an opportunity to explore less things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to if it was just all Coruscant level technology, because you'd be like, well, they could just pinpoint them immediately with the thousands of satellites they have around. You know what I'm saying? So they did a good job with that and making the things that they were doing believable and just absolutely awesome. I cannot recommend this show enough. So two thumbs, like super duper up. It's only 14 episodes with a double length episode in the beginning, so 15 hours of your life to just change your life. Um, I can't think of a show that has done so much with so little time and has had, I think, such an impact on things. Also, if you like Malcolm Reynolds and you're like, man, I wish there was more Malcolm Reynolds, obviously there's the movie, which I will have my link in the description below of the review once I make it. But also, he is in the show Castle, and that show is he kind of plays the same type of character, but is lovable, like book author thing. And then also he is in The Rookie, and that is just fantastic to see. It's just that is an excellent show. So give that show a watch. Give Castle a shot, but definitely give this show a watch. It is worth your time. Um, that's really all I have for this one. Thanks for coming. Thanks for watching. Hope to see you at the next one. Bye.